Chair, it is now 5:30. If you'd like to begin, we are ready to do so when you are.
Thank you. Please, Madam Secretary, would you start the meeting recording?
Meeting is now being recorded.
I would like to call this regular Planning Commission meeting of April 12th, 2021 to order. Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Commissioner Ramos, will you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, we will. Can you all see me and hear me?
Yes.
If everybody can please put their right hand over their heart, and we'll go ahead and begin. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Ramos. Okay, Madam Secretary, will you please call roll?
Commissioner Alderete.
Present.
Commissioner Calderon.
Present.
Commissioner Morrissey.
Here.
Commissioner Pham.
Here.
Commissioner Ramos.
present.
Commissioner Wu.
Present.
Chair McLaughlin.
Here.
Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you. I would now like to invite the Commission Secretary to describe the way the public can access this virtual meeting.
Thank you, Chair. This meeting is being live streamed via our portal at www.santa-ana.primegov.com/public/portal and to YouTube at www.youtube.com/cityofsantaanavideos/live. If you would like to provide a public comment, you may do so in the following ways. The first, join the meeting via Zoom. Enter meeting ID 994-955-63807. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, select the hand icon to let us know that you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the name you entered. You may also call 669-900-9128. Enter meeting ID 994-955-63807. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, press *9 to let us know you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the last 3 digits of your phone number. After you are called upon, you must press *6 to unmute yourself. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and I will alert you when your time is up. Chair, back to you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Moving on to public comments on non-agenda items. Madam Secretary, do we have anyone that would like to speak at this time?
If there is anyone that would like to make a comment on a non-agenda item, please either press the hand icon or *9 now. We'll wait a few seconds. Chair, we do not have anyone that would like to speak on non-agenda items.
Thank you. Having said that, we will close public comments and we will move on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes from March 22nd meeting? Do we have a motion and a second? Could you identify who you are when you make your motion?
This is Commissioner Morrissey, I'll second.
Did you're making the motion?
I thought there was a first. I'll motion to approve.
Okay.
Commissioner Wu, I second.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, roll call vote for minutes. Commissioner Alderete?
Yes.
Commissioner Calderon?
Aye.
Vice Chair Morrissey?
Aye.
Commissioner Pham?
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos?
Aye.
Commissioner Wu?
Yes.
And Chair McLaughlin?
Aye.
Motion passes by unanimous consent.
Okay, since we don't have any commissioners that are absent tonight, we can move on. It's the end of the consent calendar, and we will be moving to the public hearings. I'd like to just make note of some of the protocols that we'd like to follow. I will now review the process of public hearings so that everyone knows what to expect. Staff will present a presentation and answer questions from the commission. The public hearing will then be opened. The applicant will be given an opportunity to speak, limited to 15 minutes. Members of the public will be given the opportunity to comment, limited to 3 minutes. The applicant will be given an opportunity to respond to the comments made by the public, limited to 5 minutes. The public hearing will then be closed and brought back to the commission. Discussion will remain to the commission, return to the commission, the formal action taken to approve, conditionally approve, deny, or continue review of this application. Please consider the following suggestions when organizing your comments. Please state your name and address. State whether or not you support, oppose, or are neutral to the proposal. Your statement should include all pertinent facts within your knowledge. Avoid gossip, emotion, repetition. A clear, concise, non-repetitive argument is most effective. This is the time and place for the public hearing on item number 1 for the property located at 1209 East Wakehamn Avenue. Please note the decision on this matter is final unless appealed within 10 days by any interested individual or party. Before we begin, do we have any commissioners that would like to make, would any of the commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regards to this item at this time? Commissioner Alderete?
No.
Commissioner Calderon?
Nothing to disclose.
Thank you. Commissioner Morrissey?
Nothing to disclose.
Commissioner Pham?
Nothing to disclose.
Commissioner Ramos?
No.
Commissioner Wu?
To my knowledge, nothing.
Myself, I have nothing to disclose at this point in time. Okay, so Jerry, please go ahead with item 1 in your presentation.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This is an application request for approval of conditional use permit number 2021-01 to renew the entitlements of an existing 60-foot high major wireless communications facility disguised as a monopine located at 1209 East Wakehamn Avenue. As required by the Senate Animus Code, wireless facilities are required to be renewed every 10 years. This is the reasoning before this application tonight. Moving on to slide number 2. To the right is an aerial image of the location of the subject site. The existing wireless communication facility is located at the northeast corner of the property, as indicated by the red arrow. The subject property is located within the industrial general plan land use destination and has a zoning designation of light industrial, and is surrounded by other industrial uses to the north, south, east, and west. The subject site measures approximately 0.83 acres and is currently developed with a 12,000 square foot warehouse building. Moving on to the next slide. This is a site photo of the existing location indicating the site of the wireless facility, as indicated by the red arrow. As mentioned, the facility is currently built. It's a 60-foot high monopine facility. Moving on to the next slide. The original conditional use permit was approved by the Planning Commission in April 12, 2010, and as indicated, that conditional use permit allowed for the construction of this monopine facility with the ancillary equipment. As required by the Senate Animus Code, major wireless facilities are required to be renewed every 10 years for the reasoning before this application tonight. Moving on to the next slide. This is a site plan of the subject site. Again, as mentioned before, the wireless facility is located towards the rear of the project sites, which is indicated by the red arrow. Then moving on to the next slide. The wireless facility will continue to provide benefit to the residents and the visitors who are subscribing to the carrier of this particular wireless facility. The location is optimal for stealthing and screening. The facility will continue to not adversely affect the general plan, as the earlier facilities are designed to be compatible with the surrounding environment, are consistent with the goals and objectives of the land use element, and conditions of approval and standards in the San Antonio Municipal Code will address any potential negative impact. Moving on to the next slide. Pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, the project is categorically exempt pursuant to Section 15301, Class 1, existing facilities, and an environmental review exemption number 2021-18 will be filed for this project with the county, and there is no fiscal impact associated with this project. With that, that concludes staff presentation. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution approving conditional use permit number 2021 as conditioned, and I'm here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Jerry. Do any of the commissioners have a question of Jerry or staff? We'll start Commissioner Alderete. Any questions?
I have none.
No? Commissioner Calderon?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Morrissey?
Yes, I have one question. I noticed in the, I'm looking for it right now, the packet regarding compliance with current building codes. Will the applicant be required to have this re-reviewed for structural compliance with the current building code, or is that, or am I mistaken on that? I'm trying to find the section.
Commissioner Morrissey, this particular facility will not be subject to any new current building code requirements, unless they're proposing, in the future, if they're proposing any alterations, and they'll be subject to the building code of that time.
Okay.
Normally, for newer facilities, we do require them that they be seismic retrofitted to comply with earthquake requirements. But since this particular facility is already built, they're not subject to that requirement either.
Any other questions, Commissioner Morrissey?
No further questions. Thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Fan.
No question. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramos.
No questions.
Commissioner Wu.
No question.
I have one question, Jerry. This is the time, since it's 10 years since the original petition, the CUP was requested, and when this unit was built, is there going to be any updates, maintenance, or anything done to make sure that the product, the tower, reflects what it was when it was first installed?
Chairman, the applicant is not proposing any alterations in terms of like requiring or updating their antennas. But as part of the conditions of approval, staff is requesting that they do modify the aesthetics of the facility in terms of including antenna socks and painting the antennas themselves a darker shaded green to be consistent with the current tree branches colors.
Great. That's what I anticipated. Thank you.
Chairman, this is Min Tai. If I may, I think this property also, I would recommend that we consider a property maintenance condition on the property, because it is a renewal, or actually it's a new conditional use permit, and to keep up to date with our current conditions, I would recommend that the Planning Commission also consider a property maintenance condition for the agreement to make sure that the parking lot, landscaping, lighting, everything is being maintained on the property properly.
That's a fair recommendation. Thank you. We'll take that into consideration when we take it to the commission. Okay. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication at this point in time?
We have not received any written communication on this item.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. Would the applicant like to speak on this matter? Is the applicant here?
Yes, the applicant is on the line. I believe it's Nicole. You may go ahead and begin to speak now.
Good evening, everyone. I am here representing the applicant, SBA. I have just a couple comments. One thing I noticed on the documentation for the property owner, it says it's Salinas LLC, but it's actually just his name. It's Giovanni Salinas. So if we could get that changed, that would be great. And if I need to spell it out somewhere, I'm happy to do so if that's helpful. And then one other thing for the requirements and the conditions in terms of putting socks on the antennas and painting, is that on an as-needed basis? Because that was not previously discussed.
Okay, just continue to do your presentation. We'll answer the questions as we bring it back to the commission and do that.
Okay, that's great. I don't actually have any other comments. The presentation was great. Thank you.
Okay, so one item is just Giovanni Salinas. Do you want to spell that out for the secretary so that she'll have it for the record?
Yes, sure. His first name is Giovanni, Y-O-V-A-N-I. And then his last name is Salinas, S as in Sally, A-L-I-N-A-S.
Okay, thank you very much on that. We'll start with Commissioner Alderetti. Do you have any questions of the applicant at this time?
I have none.
Commissioner Calderon?
Sorry about that. No, I have no questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Morrissey?
No questions from me, thanks.
Commissioner Fan?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Ramos?
No questions.
Commissioner Wu?
Being new, I just have a question regarding the name change there. Does that require us to go through all the process again, or is that a procedural thing that you could just do change in the minutes, just to tie up the legality part?
Min, do you have the answer for that?
We can address it in the minutes to reflect what was just mentioned by the applicant.
And then in the staff report, it didn't mention the maintenance thing. Do we just modify that?
It would be a recommended added condition.
When we make a motion?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think we have any further questions from the commission at this point in time with the applicant. We thank you. Madam Secretary, is there anyone that would like to speak on this matter from the public at this time?
If you'd like to speak on this matter, please select the hand icon if you are participating via Zoom, or press star 9 if you are calling in. We'll wait about 30 seconds. Chair, we do not have any speakers on this item.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. At this point in time, does the applicant have any further comments that they would like to make?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, having said that, we will close the public hearing and we'll bring it back to the commission. Does anyone at this point in time want to make a motion or make a comment on this item?
I'd like to motion to move forward with conditional use permit number 2021-01. Can we add the condition? Can I add the condition during this time, or?
Yes, you can add the
Okay.
condition at this time.
Yeah, I'd like to add the condition that Min Tai mentioned earlier. If there isn't a possible way that we can update the surrounding environment around the project, such as the parking and the landscape.
Right. So you're making a motion and you're adding a condition. Is there a second to the motion and the conditions?
If I can modify that, Commission, if you will be okay, if you can add that it's as determined needed by staff on for the property condition.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Calderon, do you accept that modification to the condition?
I accept. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I second the motion.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Wu. All right. Is there any other comments or anything else that any of the commissioners would like to say at this time?
I would like to make a comment in regards to this is Commissioner Val.
Yes.
I think Vice Chair Morrissey's comment about the building code, and then also Jerry's comment about the seismic regulations for project of this height, that I think potentially we can explore in the maintenance agreements that there's a mechanism to ensure that, because the CUP spans 10 years, and so we would only re-engage with this issue 10 years from now, and of course code changes and seismic consideration do change quite frequently. So I'm wondering if there's a mechanism in the property agreement that would allow staff to be able to make assessment on whether or not the structure would need seismic upgrade or other upgrades to prevent to provide public safety, rather than wait the next 10 years from now to assess that issue.
Min, do you want to comment on that with regards to the request?
I'm not sure what the FCC regulation established on that. What we could do is a craft a condition that would essentially seek to have a review by our building division, and as you would word it so that it's as applicable under the federal and state regulations from the Telecommunication Act, because I know that the FCC Telecommunication Act have very detailed specific guidelines. So what I would propose is that we would provide a condition that essentially provide an opportunity for the building official to review the plans, but is also to be consistent with the FCC Telecommunication Act.
Okay. So this is an additional amendment to the conditions of this approval.
It would be, if that's the desire of the Planning Commission, is to place a condition, then we can help out the wording.
Commissioner Calderon, do you accept the modification to the condition that was made earlier to this made by Commissioner Fan?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Commissioner Fan, you're satisfied with that?
Yes, thank you.
Min, you're okay?
We're good, thank you.
All right. Having said that, at this point in time, Madam Secretary, will you do a roll call vote?
Chair and Madam Secretary, this is John Fung, counsel to the commission. I think it may be helpful at this point in time just to restate the motion.
Good point.
Conditions, if you don't mind my adding, please.
No, that's very good. That's a good point. That's a good point. So, Madam Secretary, can you read back the motion and the conditions that were added to that motion?
Okay, I'm going to do my best as I'm going to read it back as I heard it. So I have a motion by Commissioner Calderon to approve the condition with the condition that the surrounding landscape and parking area be improved as determined feasible by staff, Commissioner Pham introduced a friendly amendment which was accepted by Commissioner Calderon for the building official to review the plans for seismic safety. Should anything be added to that?
Are there any conditions that needed to be noted above?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Everything checks out good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So with that, if everyone is satisfied, I can go ahead and take a roll call, or if we need to add something, please let me know.
John, does that satisfy your request?
Yes, if those are the entirety of the conditions that were added and that is satisfactory to the commission, then yes, thank you.
Okay, I think there was the condition of cleaning up the property and itself. Yeah, I think we've got everything covered. Any other comments from any of the commissioners at this time? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please do a roll call vote.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Alderete.
Yes.
Commissioner Calderon.
Aye.
Vice Chair Morrissey.
Aye.
Commissioner Pham.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos.
Aye.
Commissioner Wu.
Aye.
Motion passes by unanimous consent.
Madam Secretary, you didn't ask me for a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chair McLaughlin.
Aye.
Motion passes by unanimous consent.
Okay, thank you. Give me 1 second here. Okay, item 2 for the property located at 2106 North Tustin Avenue. The applicant has requested that this item be continued to the next meeting. Can we have a motion on this to continue this item to the April 26th meeting?
So moved.
That's you. Was that you, Eric?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Commissioner Wu. Madam Secretary, please take a roll call vote.
Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Alderete.
Yes.
Commissioner Calderon.
Aye.
Commissioner Vice Chair Morrissey.
Aye.
Commissioner Pham.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos.
I think I actually have to recuse myself from this item due to the proximity of it to my home. I believe it's within the 500 square feet boundary.
Okay. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
So when
McLaughlin?
this, just for record, when this particular event comes up on the calendar, you will be asked to leave the meeting for that time period. So we'll so note that.
Thank you.
And I'm an aye on the vote.
Thank you. Motion passes by a majority vote with Commissioner Ramos
I didn't vote.
abstaining.
Oh, Commissioner Wu did not vote.
Commissioner Wu.
Aye.
Motion passes by majority vote with Commissioner Ramos abstaining.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Item 3 for the property located at 3950 South Bristol Street. Staff has requested that this item be continued to a future date. Can I have a motion to move this to a future date that's to be determined?
So moved.
Who is that?
Commissioner Ramos.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
This is Alan. I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Wu. Madam Secretary, will you please do a roll call vote?
Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Alderete.
Yes.
Commissioner Calderon.
Aye.
Vice Chair Morrissey.
Aye.
Commissioner Pham.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos.
Aye.
Commissioner Wu.
Aye.
And Chair McLaughlin.
Aye.
Motion passes by unanimous consent.
Thank you.
Mr.
Hey.
Chair, this is Commissioner Wu. Would be okay if I ask a question? A general question regarding conditional use permit for extending hours of bar operations, not related to this, but just overall.
John, I'm gonna go back to you and see what your response is on that first.
If it's a general question, the answer is yes. However, if it's a question that can be directed to a staff member individually, Commissioner Wu, I would also recommend you consider that approach.
Okay, it's just informational. Do we, in the general plan, is there overall guidance regarding alcohol use in the city? I know that we have some plans about health and, you know, good path and all that, but is there some guidance in terms of the proliferation of drinking facilities, or? I'm just curious.
The health and wellness element addresses physical health and access to a safe and healthy environment. Alcohol is not one of the issues that is being addressed as either healthy or unhealthy related activities. Okay. It is a land use matter that is regulated, and it's not a health issue that's being considered because it is a land use matter.
So we just look at it from a land use
correct
only. Okay, that's what I want to know. I didn't know how to phrase that. I'm sorry.
Are you satisfied with that, Commissioner Wu?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate that. At this point in time, we conclude the public hearings for tonight. We're going to move on to the business calendar. And tonight, staff Melanie McCann will be providing a general plan update. Please note there's no action on this to be taken at this time. Melanie, welcome. You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you, Chairman McLaughlin. My name is Melanie McCann. I'm a principal planner overseeing the advanced planning section of our department. And one of the key initiatives we have, of course, is our general plan update. And tonight we just wanted to give you an overview of the comprehensive general plan, which we've all heard about for the last few years, as well as a brief update on our housing element, which is being processed separately. So with that, I'll jump right in. Next slide, please. Are you guys working on the slides on the other end?
Yeah, we have not seen a change.
The keyboard died at a very inopportune time, but I'll check.
Oh, all right. Well, while we have this beautiful opportunity to look at this, was that the most beautiful picture of Santa Ana you've seen? It was amazing. So jumping right in. So just as I'm sure we all know, the general plan is our long-term vision document. And this draft is to take us to the future through 2045. There's a little static going on. I'm not sure who that's from, but I'll continue on. So, and it provides the long-term direction for not only our physical environment, but the overall quality of life, our economic health, sustainability, et cetera. And the colorful pictures you see in the band below are the different elements that are drafted right now and available on our website. For those that were around in November this past year, you might recall that the general plan document came before you, and the decision was made to redirect staff to go back and do additional outreach with our environmental justice communities. So these draft documents are on the website, but we're now taking the opportunity to do that outreach and to take the additional comments and potentially refine the policies and the implementation actions for these various elements. One other thing to point out for those that might be new to the commission, the 5 words at the bottom are the values that surfaced in our early outreach. So we started this process in 2015 and was with considerable outreach early on. And as you can see, culture, sustainability, health, education, and equity were the 5 themes, if you will, that kept coming up. And so that evolved into what we're calling our guiding values. And those are integrated in each of the elements. You might also note that these also complement the intention of the environmental justice legislation. Next slide. In 2016, the state legislation passed SB 1000, and it requires that when a city comprehensively updates its general plan, it needs to incorporate environmental justice in all its policies. And the next slide, please. And it specifies exactly how we should be doing that. So SB 1000 requires that cities, when they update their policies, they should be looking at the needs of the disadvantaged communities within it. And the intention is to reduce the compound health risks that might be in those areas, to promote civil engagement, so community outreach, so they're involved in the decision-making process, and to also prioritize improvements and programs in those disadvantaged or EJ communities, which we'll walk you through in just a moment. That's what our lovely Pacific Electric Park. Another great photo. Next slide, please. So the slide you see here are the indicators on which our environmental justice communities are evaluated. So in this case, there's 20 indicators. The ones on the left are related to pollution burden. The ones on the right have to do more with population characteristics. But all of these are factored in and evaluated by census tract. So examples of the pollution exposure might be exposure to ozone, particulate matter, or traffic and toxics. On the right-hand side, some of the socioeconomic factors that might create a burden for these areas is that they have a higher housing burden cost, that their education attainment might not be as high as other areas, higher poverty rate, unemployment, and some sensitive populations that are dealing more so with asthma and other health considerations. So then if we go to the next slide, these indicators are taken and they're modeled by census tract. So you can see the boundaries of Santa Ana in the darker color, and those areas that are in darker orange red are the areas of highest burden based on those indicators we just looked at. So in Santa Ana, you can see that, and again, it's those that rank on the top 25 scale of the burden that are by definition considered disadvantaged communities that we need to work and plan for more comprehensively. Next slide. So quickly, this is another image of the neighborhoods that are partially in these disadvantaged areas. The disadvantaged, or we call them EJ communities, are in the bright pink. The splashes of yellow are where we have already started to hold neighborhood meetings. So we're pulling together a couple different neighborhoods at a time in these various areas and holding forums to educate folks on what environmental justice is, what is the general plan, but more importantly, to listen and hear their comments and their experiences in their neighborhood and areas and ways to improve the quality of life and create a healthier environment in those communities. Next slide. This is the same slide essentially, but just in the last month or so, there's been a new modeling of environmental justice areas, and the areas that are outlined in yellow have actually been, it's in draft, but by the end of the summer, it's anticipated those additional census tracts will also be considered environmental justice areas. So we're proactively incorporating those into our outreach. And the one criteria that was added as a key issue for Santa Ana is lead risk. So that would be, lead contamination from various sources. Next slide. So just to highlight the approach to the environmental, the EJ outreach, with feedback from a roundtable, which was a group of stakeholders, interest groups. We helped shape the outreach. And right now we're in the process of promoting a survey. It's available online, and it's in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And it was kicked off in March, and we will be conducting the survey through May. It's also available in hard copy for anyone that needs it, doesn't have technology at their fingertips. In addition, we're a couple meetings through our virtual gatherings with these EJ neighborhoods, and that as well will go through May. The next meeting coming up was with Henninger Park and Pacific Park, and that's next week on April 21st. And just as a side note, coincidentally, we have Cal Poly Pomona, their planning department, their planning department, their students are conducting a forum next week, and it happens to be trying to encourage the youth to get engaged in planning. So we'll be able to profile the general plan and then also encourage some additional youth input, which is a great opportunity. Next slide. With that, just wanted to highlight that we'll be incorporating the environmental justice comments, and then we'll be making policy refinements. And one of the key areas that was discussed in past meetings as well is open space and parks. We're working closely with the Parks and Recreation Agency and their consultant that's preparing the parks master plan, and we'll be working to look for any additional opportunities for actions or policies to help address that particular topic. Min, I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to add, but that kind of wraps up the basics of where we are on the general plan element. And the next slide actually gives you some key dates for our timeline. So again, as I mentioned, our meetings and surveys will go through May, and then we'll be refining the general plan as appropriate. And then our intention is to come back to Planning Commission for a work study session sometime later in spring. And then we will be revising the general plan EIR, and that would be re-released in the summer of 2021. And then after that, we would have the public hearings, of course, with Planning Commission, checking in with other boards and commissions as well, and then to council for action. So our intention is to have the comprehensive general plan updated by the end of the year. And with that, I'll segue to the housing element. We can go to the next slide. So the housing element is on a separate track, and it's the one that you see here is our existing element that went through the years 2014 through 2021. Next slide. And the basics on the housing element is that the state law requires that every 8 years cities update their general plan. And of course, it's to provide policy and programs to meet the most current needs and challenges and any new laws that have come to be, and establish guidelines for the future for, again, to address our housing needs. Next slide. So we've heard a lot about in the news about the regional housing needs assessment allocation. And so as you might have heard, the state of California directed our area, the Southern California Association of Government Basin, if you will, to plan for 1.3 million housing units, which was substantially higher than it's been in the past. And they did that through a methodology which took into account local housing need and our projected development needs, proximity to high quality transit and job centers. But they also factored in a reduction for the RHNA to cities like ourselves that are considered disadvantaged communities. So that's why in the end you saw other cities like Yorba Linda, Newport Beach, Irvine, et cetera, having higher numbers, and our numbers relatively low comparatively because we were one of a handful of cities in Orange County that were considered disadvantaged. So at the bottom of the slide, you see that our RHNA allocation is a total of 3,095. That will go up just a very small amount because there'll be some transfers of RHNA from from the county related to our annexation area that we annexed a couple of years ago. So that's the basic. Next slide on our RHNA allocation. So our housing element will be planning to show how we have policies and zoning, et cetera, in place to, in theory, reduce the barriers to allow those 3,000 units to be constructed in the various affordable levels. And so as it relates to the housing element, spring as well, it's a busy spring, we're going to be pulling together a working group, or we're calling it a roundtable of stakeholders. And our intention is to include representatives from some of the city boards and commissions, the Kennedy Commission, some other local advocates, residential leaders, and developers, affordable and market rate, maybe a group of 15. And our intention is to have 4 or 5 roundtable meetings to help that group help clarify the key issues and some of the policy changes moving forward. So we have just created a web page that you can find online, and we also intend to create a survey as well to identify what people's key needs and desires are related to housing. And then we also intend to have a citywide virtual workshop. And then, of course, we'll be pulling in the boards and commissions along the way. And the intention is to come before the Planning Commission and then City Council for adoption by November of 2021. So while the state law requires that that these elements be updated by October, there is a certain grace period up through February. And so we'll be tapping into that grace period to allow the time to get through our environmental justice outreach and all these other components and get things done again by November of 2021 is our intention. So with that, I'd open it up to any questions or comments.
Thank you, Melanie. Great information. Would anybody like to raise any question with Melody at this point in time?
This is Commissioner Wu. Can I make a
statement? Go ahead.
I just happened, in preparation for serving on the Planning Commission, I happened across the environmental justice stuff you put on the website, and I found them very educational. In addition, I attended a couple of the environmental justice meetings, and they were well conducted. So I wanted to commend staff for what you're doing. I just want to remind you that community groups, particularly in low-income community, do not have professional staff, and sometimes they may get information that a group of college students are coming, but usually they make the connection after the student had left or after the meeting, and miss an opportunity to provide some key input. So I just wanted staff to be sensitive to making sure that you connect with at least the leadership in their board so that they can prepare their community to be involved. And I think when they are done in that manner, you get really good input and participation. The second part of that is that they may need help following up with making statements that will end up into the general plan update or the housing element. And I think you have a community development department that might, or neighborhood improvement that might help them with that. But generally,
Yeah.
This is a lot of work, Melanie.
Well, we appreciate your involvement in the past EJ meetings, and we will do our best, as you mentioned in your suggestions, to follow up so we can, as people start to absorb things, we can follow up and pull those statements and those suggestions to be in the general plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wu. Any other questions of Melanie at this time?
This is Commissioner Ramos. I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Well, first, thank you for the presentation, Melanie. It was very informative. And I have a couple questions on both the EJ element and then the housing element. But first on the EJ element, you mentioned that all lead risks in the city will be considered. So I was wondering how the city is considering them, and is the city testing soil for lead in these EJ identified census tracts? I know there's a lot of articles that have been published in the last 2 years about toxic soil in Santa Ana. So I'm glad that it's now being recognized, but I'm wondering how is the city going to address that? I know there's been a lot of concerns from community members around this for the last 2 years at least.
Right. Thank you for your question. Just as a little bit of background, one of the other roundtables that we had along the way was a lead roundtable group, and we have been working with the Orange County Environmental Justice Group, UCI, and then also our healthcare agency. And the healthcare agency is really the lead entity for the lead testing and coordinating. So what we're trying to do is work closely with the healthcare agency. And actually, even just in the last month or so, we've got some flyers on how to deal with lead paint. So for contractors that come in, for them to be more educated on and realizing that any structure before 1978 has the potential to have lead in the paint. So city's not doing any testing of the soil. UCI has done some testing. We're trying to coordinate with them and work closer. So we're all working together as a team and really lean on the healthcare agency, the Orange County Healthcare Agency, and their resources. Maybe look for grants and just keep moving forward to address the problem.
And in the EJ element, would the city be proposing policies and programs for lead remediation in those communities that have tested positive for toxic soil?
At present, we don't have an action for us to do any soil remediation. I think we're really focusing on working with the Orange County Healthcare Agency and those government entities that is their mission, if you will. But we're going to continue to have the discussions, and I think grant funding is something that is important for the city to be proactive on different things. But I think the relationship building is where we're at now, and really leaning on the healthcare agency and those state, county government entities that are responsible for those sorts of testing.
Okay, my next question or two questions are on engagement. So I'm wondering, one, how are community organizations being engaged in the EJ element process? And how are residents that don't participate in the neighborhood associations being engaged? So I'm thinking specifically about people that live in apartments and might not receive invitations to participate in the neighborhood association. How are they being engaged specifically in these EJ census tracts? Or I think many of them are very apartment heavy.
Right. So we have done a substantial effort, and there's always more that can be done. But for all of the areas that you saw in pink on the map that are environmental justice areas, we've actually pulled the property owner information, but we've also worked to get the occupant resident information so that we can mail all those people flyers. So we're doing our best to get the flyers regarding the workshops, regarding the survey, to all the people, renters, owners in those affected areas. So that's one key thing. Little side things, we're going the old-fashioned way, sort of. We're doing yard signs, and we're working with the neighborhood leaders to try and get them at key locations as the different neighborhood meetings come forward. For the the community serving organizations, we, as you might appreciate, we have our neighborhood initiatives group that has pretty good communication with those entities, and so we've done, every time we have a meeting, we do some kind of an email blast. And so again, we're really focusing on the people that are in those environmental justice areas, but we're also in close communication with the community serving organizations, the churches, the Orange County Environmental Justice, all the folks that are very interested in this subject.
And then a follow-up on that, has there been any coordination with the Santa Ana Unified School District to get the information to the households of students?
Yeah, that is a really good opportunity area. And we've been trying to work with them on multiple levels, but one of the things we have been able to achieve is there's something called Peach Jar. And it allows us to coordinate with the schools that are in those areas and work with their principals. And they actually release emails regarding the workshops to their parents in those schools. So that's how we've been coordinating at minimum with the school district. So through the parents, through their email network. So that's one key way. We're also trying to connect, and they have multiple wellness centers. We haven't made as much inroads on that, but we're also continuing to try and connect with their wellness centers, particularly as COVID gets better.
Okay. And then my last set of question is around the housing element. So you mentioned that there's going to be 4 to 5 roundtable meetings, and there's a couple organizations that you all have in mind. So I'm wondering how organizations that are not already being included, that want to get involved, how can they go about getting involved, and who can they contact to be invited to those roundtable meetings?
Sure. They're always welcome to contact me, Melanie McCann, or if they Google search on they search on our website for Housing Element, there's an email and a phone number that they can call and reach out to us, and we can coordinate on whatever the opportunities might be.
Okay, and those are all my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramos. Next, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
No question. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Morrissey, or Vice Chair Morrissey, do you have any questions?
No, I have no questions. Just thank you to Melanie and staff for all the thorough work they're doing, bringing this about.
Thank you.
Commissioner Calderon.
I have no questions. Thank you, Melanie. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Alderetti.
I have no questions.
Okay. Melanie, thank you very much for putting the 2 topics out on the table with the Planning Commission. I just want to go back and reconfirm that the course of the general plan is to try to finish and get it approved by City Council in what time frame?
By the end of the year.
Okay.
So December.
Now, does the housing element get included in that, or is that a separate approval process?
It'll be separate. One's right in front of the other. So the housing element will be a month or so before, but they're definitely on separate tracks, separate environmental documentation. There'll be 2 separate actions.
Okay. Great. Anybody at this point in time have any last questions for Melanie McCann? Hearing none, Melanie, thank you very much for taking the time out to give us this overview, and we appreciate your support, help.
Great, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. This concludes our business calendar. We'll move on to final comments. Staff, do you have any comments at this time?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Melanie, thank you for that great presentation. And Melanie is doing a really good job with our support of the general plan and the outreach process. In fact, we will be scheduling an item at your next meeting to ask the commission to select a representative to participate in the roundtables forums that she mentioned. So I just want to share that with you so that the chair and the commission can think about potentially who you would want to have represented on that forum process, and we'll agendize it at the next meeting for you to let us know who will be on that. Secondly is that a few weeks back, we identified a workshop opportunity through ULI for the city to participate in a mock development process that is a competition among our cities as well as other cities. Unfortunately, we received news just this afternoon that they are needing to delay and postpone the meeting to another date. I think they were polling us for a date in June. Staff will be sending out information to you, updating you. I know there were 3 commissioners interested on the commission to be a part of that. We'll be polling you on the date as well for the new date. A little bit disappointed, but they did not get the participation that they needed in order to make the workshop event a successful one. So therefore, they're doing the delay. And that concludes all the comments I have tonight.
Thank you, Min. Just before we get into individual chair comments, I just wanted to put out there, the Planning Commission Academy, who attended that from the commission at this point in time? Can we get some feedback?
The Commissioner Wu did.
Okay. Do you have any comments or anything you'd like to talk about with respect to the Planning Commission Academy?
Yes, I'd like to thank staff for sending me. It was an eye-opener. It was a great opportunity to interact with other commissioners. Got a heck of a lot of stuff on CEQA and RHNA, and it was an eye-opener. It's a little different from being on this side than on the community side. And then I took the ethic training, the AB 1234, and that scared the heck out of me. And I'm trying to be very careful. But I think all in all, the Academy and being with other commissioners, we're not alone in what we're doing. There's a lot of new legislations and things that does affect the way we do it. But all in all, I'm kind of surprised that a lot of the stuff that I used to complain about in the community side, we seem to be in a different era.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Wu. Did anyone, was anybody else in attendance, and would they like to comment at this time?
I attended as well.
Okay, Commissioner Fan, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought it was very informative, and you know, it's a lot of information to take in. Even though it was spread out, it was a lot of information. And I guess I just have a general comment. Being new to the commission, I would just like to say, you know, if the role of the commissioner as well as the role of staff, I'm not quite sure kind of where, if certain comments are not kind of pertaining to the commission, in terms of, you know, I know that the commission is meant to assess land use, and so I would just reach out to staff to let us know as commissioners if certain comments are kind of outside the purview of the hearing, so that kind of we understand more how to conduct ourselves and how to conduct our kind of how to organize our thoughts and comments to make it a more fruitful hearing.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Fan. Anyone else at this time? Just for those that were, I thought we had pretty much about 4 or 5 people, maybe 6 that were signed up. It's my understanding, and correct me on that, Sarah, but the presentations for all of the people that presented over the 4 days are going to be available on the website, and they can be downloaded and you can view them on your own?
Yes, that's correct.
And if you need to get any information about reaching out and connecting with the items on the website, you can contact Sarah and she'll take care of you. And with that, we'll go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I just, yes, that's correct. If you need to help locating the website just or the documents, just shoot me an email and I'll help you out.
Great. Thank you very much.
Mark, I want to thank Sarah. She had to rush my registration and get me a laptop, and she's just been running around trying to get me ready and stuff, and I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you saying that, Commissioner Wu. Thank you. Okay, we'll do final comments from the commissioners. Commissioner Wu, would you like to comment?
No, I think I said everything. I really like working with this group.
Okay, good. Commissioner Ramos.
I just want to thank staff for their work, specifically around the general plan, and I'm looking forward to reviewing that and the housing element and using this role to ensure that the community is participating at all levels. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good, thank you. Commissioner Fan.
No additional comment. And thank you, staff, for the clear presentation.
Okay, Commissioner Alderetti.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So at our last meeting, I was a little bit surprised that the election for chair wasn't agendized with the vice chair, principally because all the commissioners, most of us are new as of January. And so as a result, I'd like to ask that the election for chair be placed on our next agenda pursuant to the bylaws.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Calderon.
All I wanted to say is just thank you, staff, for all your hard work. Great meeting, and I'm looking forward to reviewing the general plan at the end of the year. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Morrissey. Oh, Vice Chair Morrissey, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, I just had a general comment regarding the first item we discussed today. You know, I'm just wondering how the best way we could go about crafting a policy on these cell towers. You know, if they come up every 10 years, that's potentially 4 code cycles, and a lot of things can change over that time. So I think, you know, I think we did the right thing today to require a review, but I think it should be a matter of policy, so we're not considering this each time it comes up. Is that something that needs to come before the commission, or how is a policy like that crafted? I guess it's maybe it's something the chair can put on the agenda for another meeting, but okay. I think it's important that we do that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Morrissey.
This is Commissioner Alderetti. I just wanted to make sure, I think I got cut off on my last comment, that I'm asking staff, just so I'm clear, to place the election for the chairman or chairperson on the next Planning Commission agenda. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. I received that request. John, because it is a request for the agendas, is that something that we, I know there isn't any votes, but do we need to get any type of concurrence or anything like that? Or can we simply put it on the agenda at the request of the commission?
No, it would be permissible for that item to be agendized for the next meeting, yes. Even though the laws state that the chair and the vice chair are elected at specified times, it is also permissible for the matter to be put on the agenda. The bylaws do not preclude that, provided again that it is placed on the agenda properly.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. Again, I'd like to thank staff for putting together the presentation tonight on the general plan and the housing element. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting till our next meeting, which will be held on April 26th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Evening.